Welcome to Season 2 of Frontline Fridays, brought to you by YOOBIC. I'm your host, Thurston, and this season, we're diving into what it really takes to lead on the front lines of retail and hospitality. Today's conversation is one that I've really been looking forward to because the lens we're looking through is one that shapes every single frontline transaction, whether we see it or not, and that's the technology behind the counter. My guest is David Dawson, Vice President of Retail and Digital Technology at Pilot Company, where he leads the teams responsible for enabling frontline execution across more than 900 travel centers that literally never close, not for a single hour. David started his career on the help desk, supporting stores from the ground up, and has spent nearly 25 years building one conviction. That is, if your frontline teams are expected to show up for your guests 24/7, 365, the tools they rely on have to show up for them too. Today, we're talking about what it really takes to build technology that serves people, not the other way around, and why the best tech leaders spend as much time on the floor as they do at their desk. So let's get into it. David, welcome to Frontline Fridays. I am really excited to have this conversation with you, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ron. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been excited about this.
So just to set the stage for the audience, because I think it's actually just part of this interesting story. For those that know, I was on tour with Retail in America Season 1, sponsored by YOOBIC, and I spent over a year living in an RV, traveling across 32 states of the US, and spent a lot of time in pilot stores. So while I know exactly what you do and the business model, I really wanted to start with a little bit more of just give us the landscape of pilot, like who
Sure,
you are,
absolutely.
why it's important to so many businesses and economics of this country.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for your loyalty visiting our stores on your visit. That sounds like a wonderful experience, and I'd love to hear more about that. The RV segment is an interesting segment of our customer base. They're a very important segment to us, and they have some unique needs that we have to serve. So it's part of our business strategy to make sure that we're there to serve those needs. But a little bit about Pilot. So we operate a little over 900 what we call travel centers. They're often referred to as truck stops, but we like to call them travel centers. And essentially, they're placed conveniently off the interstate exit. So these locations are full service travel centers. So they offer convenience fueling for our consumer base. They have inside the store amenities and convenience items like you would find in a typical gas station. Typically have some sort of a food offering that we provide. And then a big part of our business is what we call the commercial fueling operation. So this is the services we provide to the professional truck driver who's typically over the road is what we call them, truck drivers who are driving across country that need places to stop, obviously buy fuel and refill their tank, but also buy food, take showers. They might spend the night on our lot. So some unique needs for those customers that we make sure we cater to as well. Our purpose is to show people they matter at every turn. So we're out there on the interstate showing people they matter and giving them a convenient place to stop and refuel both their tank for their automobile and their tank for themselves.
That's beautiful. I think the interesting part, which is why I want to have this conversation with you, is in the complexity of running a business like yours may look simple from the outside sometimes, or one that we maybe even take for granted, of this idea of like the technology that it takes, the frontline work that it takes, the emotions that it takes in order to run a 24-hour business. And you had mentioned to me, which I hadn't really thought about, was pilot may be the only conversation that a long haul truck driver has with another human in the whole. And it's like the relevance and the importance of that just really strikes me.
Yeah, that's right. There are a lot of complexities to it, and I think being a 24-hour business is something that's unique and challenging to itself. And we could talk a little bit about what that means and how we have to operate a business like that. What you're touching on there with the human interaction is an interesting sort of, I think, uniqueness to the travel center industry. The professional truck driver is a critically important customer to us. We like to say they typically get 1 to 2 human interactions per day, and one of those is usually where they're either picking up or dropping off a load. The other one is going to be when they walk inside our store and talk to an associate or team member, as we like to call them, inside of our location. And so we don't take that lightly. We understand the significance of those human interactions. We understand that life on the road can be a challenge. So we try to be there for them, understanding that some guests want to come in and get out very quickly, but others need a moment to just have a human interaction and talk to somebody. And so we make sure we have time in our day to have those human interactions. It's an important part of keeping America moving that we it's a important role we play.
And how does that impact how you think about the front line? So this show being, Frontline Fridays, you have a significant headcount when it comes to leading the front line because of your large number of travel centers. How do you think about that when you're building your teams?
Yeah, there's about 26,000 team members at Pilot that are out serving the front lines. And it's a challenging operating environment. I have the utmost respect for the people that work in our stores because I understand how challenging it can be. You've talked about it's a 24/7 operation. So there's no convenient time where we close the doors and you get to reset. You have to run the business in line with a 24/7 operation. So you're serving customers along with restocking the shelves, and you're having those human interactions along with trying to keep the place clean. And so that is a challenging operating environment for anybody. And some of it's not glamorous. We're cleaning showers and we're pressure washing pumps and we're stocking shelves. And we have the most passionate, connected group of team members on the front line that you would ever. I get so much energy from being around our frontline team members because they run their stores as if they really own the business, and they take guest services to be with the utmost sincerity and affinity towards our guests. It really is a difficult environment being 24/7 and being out there with our customers, but it's a passionate group of people that work their hardest to make sure that those guests have a welcoming stop when they come visit us. It's tough.
It's tough for sure, but as you describe it, I think of such pride. I think of such
Oh,
pride in their impact and their work and the service that they provide and the value and the human connection. So you're right. It sounds some of what you describe is not glamorous, but if you take a step back and say, well, what is my actual role in this business? It's actually to create human connection and to provide services that are necessary just in life.
that's right. We show people they matter, and that's our purpose. And it happens out there on the front lines. There's a lot of pride in it. I mean, you mentioned it, but our frontline team members are a group that have an enormous amount of pride. They really do run the business like they own it. They take pride in human interactions, those moments they have with the guests, and it's that you could derive a lot of energy from that. One of my favorite things to do is visit a store or be in it when we bring the general management staff, we bring the front line together in these moments. You can feel the energy and the passion from that. And you really, as someone who doesn't spend their life on the front line, who spends their life in the comfort of the corporate office, sitting in my office, you can get a lot of energy from those folks in the front line who are really driving the company forward.
Are really proud of their work. And I would
Absolutely.
say, you put sometimes a business like yours that it operates or you think differently about it than you do other specialty retail or a business in a mall. But the reality is it's not that different because the pride that they have in their work and the services they provide, you might be selling something different, but they're doing it in a way where you're creating incredible impact. And every executive that I speak to, or certainly myself as a head of stores, their message is often the same. I get so much energy when I'm in the field. I love what they do. I love their passion for the business, their commitment to doing the right thing. It's always their first response. And I'm like, then come and spend more time in stores with me, always.
Yeah.
And I know you've done some of that too. You've talked about taking your executive team out into the field.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in technology. I run our retail technology and our digital technology group. So our job really in technology and in retail specifically is to provide the systems that operate the stores, right? It's the systems that our frontline team members interact with day to day, our cashiers. And so we're talking about the point of sale system, the payment processing, the pump systems, anything that they would use to run the store. So guest interaction, store operations. It's critical to their day to day, and it's easy for us to sit in our offices and think that things are going swimmingly because everything looks good from here. So one of my favorite things to do is we call it an IT road trip or technology road trip. So we just rent a 15-passenger van. We put as many people from technology in that van as we can fit, and we just take off down the interstate. We're located in Knoxville, Tennessee, and we're fortunate. We're at the intersection of I-75 and I-40, so we can go east, northwest, north, east, south, or west in any direction and come across a number of our locations. And so we'll hop in the van and we'll start driving one direction. We'll visit as many stores as we can. And it's amazing the perspective you see our team members, our corporate team members get when they visit a store. They look at things through a totally new light. They have a much greater appreciation for what it's like to be in the field, and they really get a sense for the impact that they have, both positively and negatively, on the frontline workers. Some things we're guilty of is you have a great new idea and you launch that new idea without really seeing how that impacts the day-to-day of our frontline team members. So when we visit the stores and we see that firsthand, it changes their point of view. And you almost always see their perspective and their behavior change when they come back from those types of trips. They then think differently about the work that they do. They're much more conscientious about the impact that they have. And you see them really get excited and enthusiastic about solving problems for the frontline team members instead of achieving whatever specific technology target they had in mind. And that's irreplaceable. You can't get that anywhere else other than visiting the frontline.
Absolutely agree with you. Yeah, a Zoom calls or any other kind of conference call ideas that you do will never replace that. To see a frontline, to speak to your customer, to just really understand that the power of what that means.
And I think it's important when we go into these types of visits, we have to set some context and say, when you visit the store, take yourself out of your current shoes. Don't walk into the store as a technology leader or as a technology engineer. Swap your perspective around to that of the person on the front line. Go through their routines with them, walk the shelves and count the inventory and understand how they interact with the systems, how they use the devices we've given them. Understand it from their point of view. Don't try to get sucked into, let me see your wiring closet and see how all your technology is working. Really see it from their point of view. That's where the value comes from, is walking in their shoes for a few minutes.
For sure.
Just real quick, one of my favorite things to ask corporate people to do is front the cooler. So go to our cold case cooler where all of our drinks are and change them around so that they're all forward facing so that the label is facing out, because it seems like a waste of your time. It seems like a silly task to do. But once they do it, and you step back and you look at the cooler, you're like, wow, that really looks good. I can see how that drives sales or drives a better guest experience. Like, these are the things that our frontline has to do all day, every day in a 24-hour business. A 24/7 business never stops.
I grew up at the Gap folding jeans and saying, you walk into a great Gap store that is hundreds, if not thousands of pairs of really well folded denim. And back in the day, we would have 20, 25, 30 feet just of walls of denim.
Right.
And I was a master denim folder, but same,
Yeah.
you teach someone how to do that and you really appreciate, you're not just kind of pulling and you dragging jeans
Just tossing them back
out of
on
the wall.
Right.
Really good.
Yeah.
Let's talk about more like technology in your business, because again, this 24-hour a day requires a different level of leadership from technology, but it also requires just new ideas, and there's just a lot of trends in technology. So based on your experience, tell us more what's on your mind.
Sure. So running 24 hours a day is a unique challenge, and we're certainly not the only people that run 24 hours, but it's part of our DNA. Our customers travel 24 hours a day. Like I said before, they sometimes stay the night at our locations in their trucks. So we don't have nice, convenient business hours. We have to be open when the customer needs us, and that's all day, every day. So that's the challenge for operations, right? Because you have to, as a general manager or store manager, you have to run the business at the same time that you're restocking the shelves, cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning the showers, doing all of your end of day paperwork or whatever it is to do. You don't have a time when you close and you can take care of those business activities. You have to do that in line. It also means that from a management point of view, as a leader, you have to build a team that you can count on to run the store when you're not there, because you can't be there the whole time the store is open. Otherwise, you'll never sleep, you'll never take vacation. So you have to really develop a team, and you have to develop routines and processes around those routines that you can really hold the team accountable, make sure that you have compliance and you have good follow through so that those things take place while you're away. And one of the areas where we've really leaned on YOOBIC as a task management solution to help us automate a lot of those routines. From a technology point of view, it does present some additional unique challenges in that we don't get to close the store at night and just reboot everything and start anew, right? Your systems have to run 24 hours a day. Your transactions span across. It can start in one calendar day and end in another calendar day, and that can be confusing for your system. So you've got to make sure that all of your systems operate all the time. And like I said before, with task management, you have to make sure that you've built in the routines and the supporting processes so that those things can run continuously. And that is certainly a unique challenge, but again, not just unique to Pilot, but something I think we're really good at that is part of our DNA.
I can see that. And how do like new technology solutions impact you, Pilot maybe specifically, but also just your industry? Yeah, there's a lot of there, of course, AI topics, and there's new technology solutions all the time. Like, what
Sure.
are the ones that are most important to you?
I think what's been interesting the last couple years is to watch guests' interactions and guest journeys go almost completely digital, right? So we typically work in what has traditionally been a paper board or paper clip, sorry, clipboard and piece of paper industry, right? You pick up the clipboard, you walk the shelves, you check off the things you need to do. Your guests interacted with you by walking up to the cash register and transacting at the cash register or using the pump. Now, as things go digital, our guests want to interact with us digitally, right? So we have a mobile app that allows them to interact with us digitally. We can now talk to them in a whole different way. We can nurture them on that journey. We can communicate to them when they're not at the site. So that has changed in a new digital relationship. And then for our team members, we've changed that relationship to be more digital as well. So a lot of those routines that are historically based off of paper and clipboards, we've now digitized in YOOBIC that allows them to do manager walks and a lot of their compliance checks now digitally. We're mobilizing the workforce so that instead of being back in the back office, stuck behind a computer, taking care of those administrative tasks, now we can mobilize you through a handheld device. You can be out on the floor. You can be taking care of a lot of those inline routines that have to happen because we're 24/7, but you can also do that while you're serving guests and interacting with customers. That technology shift has really enabled the business to provide better service to our guests. That's been an amazing shift for our industry. It's something we've continued to pursue and continue to get better at. You mentioned AI, it's everywhere right now. It's changing the way everybody thinks about business. I think for us specifically, we think about it a lot as a productivity tool. How can we leverage that to provide better guest services, to provide more efficiencies in the store? How can we make the life easier for the frontline worker? And so we're automating a lot. We're providing them with a lot of advanced analytic tools and advanced tools that help them. Things as simple as I've got a freezer that's on the brink and I need to know how to fix it, making sure that they can easily through AI access information or tools on how you might get that freezer up and running, or if you have to log a service ticket to get someone out there to repair it. Those types of ways AI is making it more efficient for us to run our operations.
Sure. As you describe that, I can only imagine not that many years ago, because there's so many different operational kind of processes that you must have for because the business is so complex. But I could just imagine this like 6 foot shelf of binders of here's how you do everything
Absolutely.
related to a business at Pilot.
Yeah.
I could see it and
Yeah.
struggling and trying to find the right page and like find the latest update and
Absolutely.
solve.
I mean, it's
Your
whether
AI
it's clean.
solves that.
That's right. There is a 1 to 10 process for cleaning a shower. There's a 1 to 10 process for stocking the shelves. For polishing the trash can lids, which is something we have to do, right? For pressure washing the pumps. I mean, everything has a process card or a way of doing it. And you're right. There's binders on the shelf that show you how to do everything, and you got to go find the one you need in order to do the process you're tasked with. So that's where we come from today. Digitizing all that is just makes it so much easier to find that information, to understand the process, to follow through with the procedure. That's what allows us really to excel at operations in a 24-hour business.
And without adding significant headcount or maybe even keeping it flat. You've said it, I think you said it at NRF on stage this year, your mantra being simplify, simplify, simplify,
Yeah.
which, is very true in this business that can be yours is really complex, but I think every business has the sometimes tendency to left turn and make everything harder than it needs to be.
You're absolutely right, and that's something within technology we have to remind ourselves of every day. You can get wrapped up in the tech and how exciting and fun it is, and you can build really cool tools, but if they're not easy to use and they don't add value to the frontline team member, it's a lot of wasted effort. We've a quick story, we built a food production planning system we call deli management, a deli management solution we built. This was years ago, and we got real excited about it on our end, and we built a really complicated and sophisticated deli management system, and we put it in a few stores. We found out they weren't really using it, and so going back to you don't really know what's going on until you get your feet at a store. So we went to a store and we said, "Hey, what's going on? Why are you not using the deli management system?" They said that thing is like a rocket ship. I need an advanced degree in astrophysics to use this thing. All I really needed was a camera and a monitor so I could see what's happening on the deli while I'm back in the kitchen, and I would know what I need to make for the day. We are like, unbelievable. We totally overshot the requirements here and built something that was completely beyond what we needed. We really needed a simple solution, something that we could have probably bought at Walmart with a baby monitor. Essentially, is what we needed. So that's a good lesson for us, right? And that is that it's got to be simple. It's got to be easy to use. It's got to be intuitive. When you miss the mark there, you just make operations that much harder as opposed to what you set out to do, which is make them simpler and more efficient. So that's true with any guest interaction, any team member experience, anything we do. It really has to make it better or easier. Otherwise, you're taking a step backwards.
Well, and again, I guess I think about time in your business, and there's a limited amount of time that they spend. There's tasks that need to get done, or it's a shower, or it's a meal. Like there are things that require the efficiency, the simplicity that you describe. I've seen it. I know it in myself. Of like your car is outside, your truck, you're trying to get somewhere. There's that efficiency that's inherently built into your business. At the same
Yeah, that's
time,
right.
trying to also be very human. It's, I think it's fascinating.
It's a classic sort of dilemma. As a guest wants to come in, get fuel, and get out. We love them to come inside the store, right, and buy things inside the store. So you're balancing this line between quick and efficient operations and moving people through and throughput versus you've got other customers that are going to be there for a minute and need to take a break and need to shift down for a few minutes and get a breather, and they need a longer moment in the stores. And that's particularly true for the professional truck driver whose hours of service are heavily restricted. And this is something that's sort of a unique challenge that truck drivers face, that they have mandated breaks they have to take. They have a specific time off the road in which they cannot be driving. And so when they're in one of those moments, they don't have a choice. They can't get back on the road. And so you have to recognize that moment, right? As a frontline team member, you have to recognize the difference between, I just got to stop and use the bathroom and get on the road because I'm paid by the mile. If I'm not moving the truck, I'm not getting paid. I need quick service. I need to get back out on the road versus someone who is on a mandated break and needs that human interaction or needs a little bit more time. And I'm not here for a quick interaction. I'm here for a minute. I needed to take a moment here. And that's the challenge for frontline, is to recognize the difference in those moments and make sure you're seeing to both needs because they're different.
Yeah, very much so. Just thinking about your business and career growth on the front line, I would imagine the most successful multi-store leaders, regionals, districts, your business model all come from the front line again.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, if you look at our field leadership, I hesitate to say all, but most of them are grown, kind of come up from within, right? They definitely have spent time as a store manager where they'll run that for a period of time, move into a region manager position where they run a group of stores up to a division where they have a group of regions. So it's almost required that you come up through the ranks in order to be a leader in the field operations. Even I think the few times where we might have brought someone in to be a division type leader, they'll always go back and start them in a store, at one store, and run a store and then kind of work them up from there. So that field experience is irreplaceable. It's not uncommon to see people in field leadership that started as a maintenance worker or started as a cashier and really worked up from the ground all the way up to that leadership because of that experience, that understanding of really what it's like and being able to manage that type of environment. I certainly can do it. As someone who spent my life in the office working on technology. You can't just plop me into a field leadership position and expect that I'm going to know how to run a region of stores. You have to start from being on the front lines for sure.
Yeah, it's no matter how curious you are about their business, doing it feels very different. Doing it for a week or a month or a year feels very different than just asking good questions, like a business like yours. Lastly, we think about your field leadership teams that might be listening to this, or people within the organization. What would you like to say to them, because you have such a large team, and advice that you give to people that are working on the front line today?
Well, I think, I would always start something like this with showing my appreciation. We don't do that enough of that. We try to do it a lot, but it's never enough. We don't have our jobs if it's not for the work that they're doing out on the front lines. And that's certainly something we understand. And we all understand that we exist so that we can serve them, so that they can serve a guest. So you have to start with appreciation. Thank you for everything you do for Pilot. Thank you for everything you do for us. We understand that, that's the work that really matters. And the rest of us are here to make sure that you have what you need to do the job. I think the second thing is, we talked a little bit about how it's hard for us to get that point of view without being in the store, but we also can't be in the store every day. We have to be here doing the work. So the more feedback we get, the more information we get, the more we understand your point of view. We have ways. YOOBIC is one way that we can get feedback from stores. We have other channels that they can solicit information, tickets that can be logged. But we really need that information. That's how we determine what work we're going to do to make their life better. So please keep the feedback coming. We get really great feedback from the front line, but the more feedback we get, the better. For sure.
Incredible. Thank you for sharing this and helping break down the complexity of a business that is one you may just drive by and not really understand how hard this really is. But you've made it simple, and you've made it interesting and efficient. And I appreciate you doing that for the audience.
Well, I'm glad to do it. I appreciate taking the time to do it. I love talking about Pilot and talking about, how great our front line is. So any chance we get to do that, I love to do it. So thank you, Ron, for the opportunity. It's been a real pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you so much. David reminds us that technology is only as powerful as the people it's built for. The best systems, the best tools, the best solutions, they mean nothing if they make a hard job harder. And the leaders who understand that aren't the ones who stay behind their desk. They're the ones loading into that 15-passenger van and driving down the interstate to see it for themselves. So here's your challenge for the week. Wherever you sit in the business, get closer to the work. Ask the person closest to the customer what's making their job harder right now, and then actually do something about it. Because when you simplify, support, and trust the people on the front line, everything else follows. Thanks for tuning in, and a special thanks to YOOBIC, the presenter of Frontline Fridays. YOOBIC is the AI-powered platform that helps retail and hospitality leaders connect, train, and empower their teams. Ready to make your frontline your competitive advantage? Visit YOOBIC.com. That's YOOBIC.com to learn more. Until next time, keep leading boldly and keep putting people first.